Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. And in this video I will show you some of the recently revealed concept art for the Deep Dark and the Ancient City. So if you like my videos like this one, then please make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more Minecraft 1.90 videos and 1.20 videos in the future. And so a couple of days ago, Minecraft actually uploaded a video to their official YouTube channel where they showed off some concept art, but they went through it really fast. And I think it would be nice to actually take a closer look at what was mentioned in those concept arts to see what they all had planned for the Deep Dark and the Ancient Cities, because there were many different iterations and some really interesting items and blocks in there as well that we didn't see in the end, but we might see in the future at some point. We don't know, of course. As we know, Minecraft and concept arts, yeah, there's some struggles there, but I still think it's interesting to look at this. So let's head over to the first concept art. And that is this image over here. So we start off more with the Ancient City part of the Deep Dark. And so in this image, we first see on the left a massive sort of statue. And then next there is a player for scale. And then there is something really interesting under A. So A, it has a note which says stone chests. Players need to slowly slide their heavy stone lid, which makes a lot of noise and vibrations and takes a lot of time, but these stone chests will hold valuable loot. And so they were planning to add stone chests into the game, which actually sounds really interesting. They also seem to be larger than players. Whereas the normal chests, of course, are just one block. These would be larger than a player and would actually take a lot of time to open. At B, there's another version of the stone chest. C is a smaller statue with ear-shaped silhouettes. And then next there are also some pots and vases. They were initially going to be in the Ancient City as well with D, E, F, G and H. So at F it also says maybe some chests have metal or glass parts. They are very sensitive and noisy. And at H it says note, screaming vases makes a lot of noise and vibrations when broken. They can hold valuable loot, but it's super dangerous for wardens. And so they had a lot of ideas for different ways to store treasure instead of using chests, but in the end they just went with the chest anyway. And then here is a concept art of the same storage blocks, but now in 3D. So again, there's a player for skill on the right, and we can actually see that some of these vases actually have some smoke coming out of it or something like that, which looks very interesting. I really like these designs for the different types of chests and other storage containers, but it also does feel very un-Minecrafty, so I can't see why they didn't go for something like this. Then we have a bit more of a general concept art for what the feel of the Ancient City should be. We can see the portal on the top right of the image. That's also in the final version, of course, but for the rest it's still quite different. They also say that they base these drawings on Mayan temples and Roman ruins, but I don't think there's much else in this image. Here we can see some of the gameplay ideas they had back then. So we can see a ruined city here with skull covering some of the floor. And so it says that many interactions that generate vibrations, such as opening stone chests, breaking pots, and certain types of floor material that make noise. And so this noise would then alert the warden. That's quite similar to how it is now. Then here we see how the developers expected us to raid one of these ancient cities. So there's a chest with valuable loot. And so to get this loot, the player shoots an arrow to generate a vibration and lure away the warden or distract it, which you can now also do, of course. We can see that actually they tried to shoot a bell, which didn't get added to the final version, but that's just a small detail. Then the warden reacts to the vibration and leaves the area. This opens an opportunity for the player to sneak and get to the point of interest. And now the loot is available, but surrounded by noisy material, so you have to be quick. Alright, then here we have some interesting different tips. So first of all, there is the top image, where you can see a player trying to reach a pot on a high pillar. So there's a point of interest surrounded by a noisy floor, but it could be reached by jumping over the pillars. However, one of these pillars is actually a noisy pillar, and so to get over it, you have to place a block like wool on it. So they also had this idea as well for wool to stop vibrations. And so when you place wool on top of it, then you can reach the final pillar with the loot on top. We can also see that they intended for the Ancient City to be more like a maze, where there would be valuable loot, traps and also dead ends. And again, looting the pots and stone chests would attract the warden. Then here we see some of the ideas they had for the blocks to be added in the ancient cities. And so they say that the walls could be a mix of A, polished stone, which would have a shape and size variety, which sounds interesting. So these polished stones could be larger than 1x1 block and of different shapes as well. Then there's also B, carved out patterns. So that would be like the iron bars trellis idea, which we don't have. But this one can be stone carved, so we have some sort of stone carved blocks as well. Then C, there are the chiseled blocks. Okay, alright. And D, there would be abstract figures in some of the blocks in the walls of the ancient city. And so at the bottom it also says that there would be blocks with 1 block thickness and blocks with 2 block thickness, which will be better explained in a perspective view. But that is all really interesting. Seems like they're working with very out of the box ideas with blocks that were larger than 1x1 blocks in Minecraft. And so here is that perspective view, so we can see that the walls are sometimes 1 block thick and sometimes larger than 1 block thick. And it also says a note up there, all vases, pots and chests should be kept on top of the walls and roofs. So that didn't go through in the end. Of course, there are some chests that are more difficult to reach on higher platforms of some of the structures in the ancient cities, but not all of them are on the walls. And then here we have a great concept art of what the stone chests would look like. And this is just incredible. I love these designs. So there are 5 different designs for the stone chests here. And with design A, it says that it would be 2 blocks wide and also 1 block high. But then there would be a lid on top of that 1 block that would be movable or breakable. And if the lid is breakable, texture could have more cracks and look more fragile. So actually the entire stone chest would be higher than 1 block as well and 2 blocks wide, which I think would actually be a great idea because it just makes it so unique for the ancient city. But of course I didn't go with it. There's probably lots of different aspects that play a role here as to why that didn't go through in the end. And it also had some other ideas on the right there where they would cover some of the stone chests with some moss or foliage to make it seem like they've been there for a very long time. And then there's also a colored in drawing of what they thought the ancient city would look like, with actually a lot of candles that we do now see in the ancient city. But that is all the concept art we got for the ancient city. Then there's also quite a lot of concept art we got for the deep dark biome itself, which had some very interesting different iterations as well. The first of which being the idea that the deep dark would actually be underwater, or previously underwater and now dried out. And so here we see a concept art which is very magical. So there are the skulk blocks on the bottom, of course, but there's also a lot of different flying jellyfish that work as sort of like ghostly jellyfish just flying through the air. And there's also a sort of coral block that is just all throughout this deep dark biome. And there's also a version of this concept art with green jellyfish, but also we can see that Steve is actually walking on top of some sort of green, seems like either liquid or glass. It looks so magical and so beautiful, but that is just mainly the atmosphere, I believe. Great drawings, actually. Then here is another idea they had, which I think also looks quite awesome. So there's lots of different blocks here that seem to give off some light. It almost seems like amber, where sometimes you see like those flies trapped in amber and that kind of atmosphere, which of course doesn't really work with the entire skulk and warden theme. But this does look like an amazing biome, and I think they should just maybe add this in a future update if we want to add more cave biomes. Then this concept art does seem inspired by the same theme, but it's a little bit more realistic maybe. There are some weird things going on here. There are small plants growing throughout the cave and also some sort of dark grass everywhere. And next to Steve there's also some sort of green tube that gives off light. This one actually seems very, very strange to me, but let me know if you know what they're trying to show here. And also it does seem like there's some sort of amber ore in the deep slate there. They were also thinking of making the deep dark some sort of bioluminescent biome, where there were different blocks that would give off light and others that would give off no light, making it feel again like a very magical place. And again, I just can't stop praising these beautiful drawings, they are incredible. And then the final concept we got shown comes back to the first one of the deep dark a bit again, with the dried up underwater world. But there are some strange blocks here as well, which could either be some sort of plants or maybe dead coral or something like that. There's also a version of this which actually looks like they made it in-game, which also contains these weird dead coral blocks. And there we go, so that is all the development on the 8th city at a deep dark that Mojang shared in their latest video. Some really interesting concepts there, especially the stone chest I find really interesting. And I'm really curious to see if any of these concepts will still make it into the game at some point in the future. But anyway, there we go, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, then please make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more Minecraft videos like this one. I want to thank my tier 3 member, this Mikela. Thank you for becoming a tier 3 member. But there we go, I hope you all enjoyed this video and I hope to see you all in the next one. So until then, Bye bye.